Okay, all right. Okay, so today I will be talking about relevant training and experiences for analog astronauts or participants in analog missions, better to say. Of course, when we talk about this topic, I would like to also highlight that there are some limitations on my presentation. First of all, it's still work in progress, so definitely it's ongoing. Why it's still work in progress? Because it's so difficult to get the data, and I'm very glad, Julio, that you shared some data with me, because really for the other missions, it's very difficult to get let's say background profile of participants, etc. Of course, it's still preliminary. It was not reviewed yet. The topics I will be discussing a little bit. So of course it might be a little bit biased. And of course, as you probably already have seen from my personality, I'm sort of adventurer and explorer, and therefore also I'm a little bit risk taker. So also my perception of some activities or risk or something might be a little bit shifted compared to the people, let's say, more calm and more seated on the ground. So let's have a look. When we talk about let's say Mars and Mars mission, for example, we need to understand how difficult it will be for us as a humankind to get there. I just listed missions, space missions, which were carried out in the past, and I highlighted the duration of this mission. So when we look in the past, in let's say back to 80s, we had this Salyut space station where the maximum spent time on orbit was something close to 240 days. Then, of course, with the progression of Mir, it was also progressing in terms of duration of the space flight. And basically, Valery Polyakov made the world record, and he's still holding this record when he spent 437.75 days in the space. It was back in 1994, just to give you a perception, or let's say interval where it happened. Of course, there are also attempts on ISS, and the most recent record was done by Scott Kelly and Mikhail Kornienko, who spent 230 days on orbit in 2016. And of course, I also want to mention Christina Koch, and as a women representative of women astronauts, and she spent 328 days on orbit in let's say last year. Let me just move it. Okay. And of course, there are also some shorter missions during the Skylab where they reached something like not more than 3 months on orbit. Of course, we also had missions to Moon, which probably we can consider as sort of real analog missions compared to the Mars missions, because of course humankind was living for a certain period of time on the moon surface, experiencing the life over there. And the longest duration of the lunar stay was something like almost 75 hours. So when we calculate, it's not more than 3 days. So when we look on a Mars mission, let's say on estimation how long such a mission will take care, will last, it will be something like 21 months altogether. I mean, considering the flight there, stay on the Mars, and flying back. So if we look at this number, we definitely see that there is a huge discrepancy about our experiences, how, let's say, the space flight, but as well as how stay on a different planet will influence human body, not only from physiological point of view, but mostly from psychological point of view. To do so, I mean, to better address such questions, such issues, we of course have these analog missions. There are a lot of similarities. When you look on a picture on the left side, basically you can see that we can simulate really a lot on the Earth, considering the Mars mission. For example, we can simulate communication delays. We can simulate communication with mission control. We can also test space food. We can also create different kinds of confined environment to study the influence on human physiology and psychology. And of course, we also can test a lot of instruments and tools which will be used on Mars. Very important here is to mention that there are very few analog missions so far which were done with real astronauts. And mostly participants of these analog missions are everyday folks, and I will be talking about that a little bit later. When we look on analog missions, as I mentioned, they are really located in different areas, and also, let's say, there are different setups. We understand a few categories, I would say. There are missions located in desert conditions, like, for example, this DMARS. Then there's, of course, semi-arid areas like Habitat Marte, for example. We also have missions located on volcanoes, like HISIS, for example. But we also have more extreme environments, like Antarctica station, which is located on the South Pole, which, of course, it's very challenging in terms of logistic, transportation, emergency, etc. And ultimately, we also have underwater analog missions. Currently, there are only 2 running in the world. One is NEMO, which is located in Florida. So in a, let's say, in a hot or warm water, in a pleasant visibility, and with a lot of support, because of course this project is supported by NASA. So it's under their governance and following their rules. And also there is a Hydronaut mission, which is this white and yellow structure shown on my screen. Which is located in Czech Republic, and where I participated in my analog mission underwater. So these are, let's say, the environments where we can simulate or we can study the conditions on humans in relation to the space flights to the Mars. Probably have heard, but 2 days ago, NASA made an announcement that they are searching for new candidates for their new analog mission, which will last for 1 year. And just to highlight the criteria from their consideration, I would like to highlight what is already in bold, that all the candidates will need to fulfill criteria and standard as a NASA astronauts, which of course we can all imagine that it's quite challenging, not only from the training perspective, but also from the health perspective. So those candidates will really go through quite deep selection process. In terms of educational background, NASA expects that these candidates should either have a degree in engineering, mathematics, or biology, or they should be somehow skilled in physical or computer science. They also expect some candidates to have a medical degree and or to have a pilot license or underwent military office training in the past. Of course, unfortunately, this selection is only open for US citizens or permanent residents in the United States. So unfortunately, we cannot apply. But still, it's good highlight what are the, let's say, the highest and toughest criteria set to an analog mission and set by NASA. I would say one of the most experienced agencies in the world in terms of space flights. Thanks to Julio, I was able also to make a small analysis of educational background of participants of Habitat Marte missions. And as you can see, it's quite various, I would say. We have students, bachelor degree, we have master degrees students, and of course we also have a finished Master of Science personnel. And some of them also were or are going to be a PhD students. When we look at the fields, mostly I would say we see a lot of engineering, also a lot of aerospace, and also some computers relevant education. A few of them also had a degree in biology, either marine biology or molecular biology. So this is a situation, of course, for some of them, as you can see, there are no data available. So as I said, there might be some limitation on these results. Why it's important? It's important, this educational background and also experiences, because recently we have experienced several missions which were basically compromised due to the failure or misbehavior of the crew. One of them happened in 2018, where basically the mission, analog mission, needed to be cancelled due to withdrawal of the one crew member, and also really a few hours or days ago there was also an issue about some misbehavior of one crew member in one of the missions. So again, this is very important to highlight that this is more based on I would say on psychological aspects, and probably Karin can comment a little bit more on that later during their speech or when we have a discussion. But Julio can also say that how difficult it is when you set up the mission, and then all of a sudden, due to, let's say, the situations or circumstances which could be avoided, you need to cancel the mission and to cancel the whole project. And of course, it's question of money, of personnel, of time, of everything. So, and all those things, I would say, are preventable, and they are preventable by education and by proper experiences. Of course, experiences hand in hand also goes with the ability to make the right decision. Now I will be highlighting two missions which were shortened due to the safety reasons. One of them was also our mission, where I participated during the Hydronaut mission 2, where we shortened the mission by several hours due to the health concerns and safety concerns of us as aquanauts, since the conditions were so harsh that we needed to shorten the dive, to shorten the stay in the habitat, to be able to get to the surface in a safe manner. I just would like to highlight that such underwater missions are extreme in terms, because we basically they do diving which is called saturation diving. Saturation diving means that in your body there is a dissolved gas, inert gas, and you cannot get to the surface immediately. It takes you at least several hours to get to the surface. So in any emergency or contingency situation, even a small one, like you have just cut on your head and you need to go to surface, it takes you hours. If you don't do this few hours decompression, basically you are dead or seriously injured by decompression sickness. So in this case, it was the decision of the Capcom of the control center, which of course with discussion with us and especially with me as a hyperbaric medicine expert, we decided to shorten the mission. So here it's important to highlight the experiences of the crew and as well as of the control center, which at some point need to take really critical decision and really to shorten the mission due to the safety reason is one of them. Another mission which was recently shortened due to safety issues was Harmonia mission, which I think happened in June timeframes this year. The mission basically was woman-based and was based on a sailing vessel. And there were also some concerns where they needed to shorten it and basically to cancel the whole mission after, I think, a few days of sailing. So again, it shows that competency of the crew and the mission leader, because it's really a huge responsibility to be able to say, no, we cannot go further. And so this brings me, let's say, to my final slide, where I would like to highlight a few things. Of course, maybe you were expecting that I will be talking about some specific education, but I need to say, considering the differences in the habitats, either in let's say architecture or localization, it's important that the habitat or organizers of such missions, they set the criteria because they know the place the best, they know the conditions the best, and they need to create really valid and solid curriculum for those people to be able to participate. Another important thing to consider is define the scope of the mission. Of course, when we are talking about, let's say, testing the equipment or testing the rover or, I don't know, drilling machine or whatever, of course, you are expecting to have more, let's say, technical people on site, because, of course, you need probably also to troubleshoot some troubles and also maybe to adapt your procedures, and you need to do it on site. Of course, different crew will be needed when you study psychology, and of course, psychologists probably will determine what kind of personalities are needed to conduct their studies to have some valuable and reliable outcomes. And of course, another story is when we want to study some physiological effects of isolation, where also you need different profiles, especially health profiles of the subjects. And one of the last important consideration is the place. When you are somewhere on the lava tube or you are in a polar region, you probably need to complete a different training, and also you need to have a different equipment. The same applies for underwater missions, where of course you need a very solid profile of the divers to be able to conduct the study. And most importantly, from my side, it's important always when considering analog mission to keep relevancy to the space exploration. So basically, from my understanding, every analog study should have some scope in terms of relevancy to let's say, to goals and to questions which are still open and needed to be answered for the space exploration. So that's it from my end, and now I hope that we can discuss a little bit further.